Chapa, the person whom we are going to meet today is a graduate from University of Sri Jayawardena. He is a fellow of SEMA as well as a chartered accountant of Sri SF, and he has got an MBA from Southern Queensland University, and he's reading for his PhD. Why don't you talk about his corporate experience, Chapa?
Indeed, Chami. More than that, he started as a CFO at Hydromony Group. Then from there, he has become a CEO of Aitken Spence Apparel Industries. And right now, he is the CEO of Dankotuwa Porcelain. And quite interesting thing is that since starting his position at Dankotuwa Porcelain, if you check on Wall Street Journal even, you can see the numbers are actually quite interestingly going up there with the Dankotuwa Porcelain.
Shall we tell his name?
Yes, indeed.
He is Mr. Channa Gunawardana, the CEO of Dankotuwa Porcelain.
We are going to start the discussion, and the discussion is going to have two segments. The first segment is the rapid fire segment. We are going to ask 10 quick questions, and the second segment is we are going to ask 10 detailed questions. So we are going to start the rapid fire segment, and Chapa.
Thanks, Chami. Which nickname you can share, Channa?
No nickname, goes as Channa for the time being.
Do you believe in horoscopes?
I do when it says that I am going to do great, then I believe.
Are you an Android person or an iOS person?
iOS.
What is your favorite dinner choice?
I love Indian food.
Would you rather be a rich or a king?
If the choice is given, a rich king, who is king but rich.
This is going to be interesting. What is your favorite drink?
It mostly depends on with whom you are going to have the drink. So I care less about the drink, but as long as you are the right person.
Favorite quality of your wife?
She loves to help people. That's what I love about.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Not a morning person.
Who's your role model?
No one specific, but I had a huge impact from many people around.
What's your favorite song?
Many, but Amma Sandaki is one of them.
Would you like to sing some 2 lines?
10 questions are oversizing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we are going to start the second segment of our discussion. We are going to ask 10 detailed questions, Chamikara.
Thanks, Chapa. So, Channa, the first question is, when you started your corporate career, did you ever imagine to be a corporate leader?
Not really. I think what you kind of plan and what you wanted to achieve change over the time. When I was working at Ernst & Young, I was thinking about whether I can be a partner of Ernst & Young. Then I worked for Hydromony for 12 years. Again, within the Hydromony, maybe in the first few years in finance, when I saw and when I met people like Mr. Ranil Patirana, maybe my kind of dream was to be a finance director somewhere. Then I moved into operations within the Hydromony life. So then again the inspirations and what you wanted to achieve change. So that's where I wanted to go into operations and to be a CEO. So never had a specific dream. I don't think you need to have it as well. It's just that you do what is right given the situation, and when you continue to do what is right, hopefully you will end up at a place where you can be happy.
Next thing, we would like to know now, decision making is kind of a key thing for a leader. Would you like to describe your decision making style?
Okay, so I don't think there is a specific decision making type or style that will be appropriate for me or any other person or for any organization as a general rule. But the decision making style will have to kind of more cater for the situation that you are in. So if you look at my decision making, maybe about 10% of the decisions you'll have to make yourself, irrespective of the views that you have received from everyone else. So for a given year, it might be few key decisions that you'll have to make it yourself instead of, or rather you'll have to make the decision to yourself without listening to the views that you receive. Everything else has to be a decision taken together with the team. So maybe over 90% has to be in any situation, has to be decisions taken together with the team, but there will be few. As a CEO, you will have to take some of the decisions that might not be kind of either kind of liked by everyone, So there will be few decisions that you will have to make. Rest has to be kind of on discussions.
We come across a lot of leadership theories and quotes. Channa, my next question is that any leadership theory or a quote that has inspired you?
I, rightly or wrongly, I use many different leadership quotes with my team. I think leadership quotes will inspire people. Leadership quotes will give you some guidelines given the situation where you are for you to take a right decision. So I think leadership quotes are important, but if you ask me anything that struck me specifically or anything that helped me specifically, these are leadership quote. I don't know whether to call it a leadership quote or not. This is something that my boss Tony Nadaraja used to say. He used to say, bottleneck is always on the top of the bottle. Which is to say, look here, in your department, organization, if there's a problem, you are responsible, no one else. You can't be saying the team did not do it, the resources were not enough. Bottleneck is you. Bottleneck is on top of the bottle, which is the top of the organization. So that's one quote. I'm sure there are many. I use many as well, given the situation, but that's, if you ask me one quote that kind of helped me or changed me, I would put that in.
Can I have an extension of that question as well, sir?
Okay.
Any book that has inspired you and has an impact?
Many. I read a lot of leadership books. Out of them, any book from Robin Sharma, I think would inspire anyone, without a doubt. But other than Robin Sharma's books, what comes to my mind is a crazy book called, if I remember it right, How Comes That Idiot Is Rich and Not Me. That's a great book written by Robert, I can't remember his full name, but it's available all over. How Comes That Idiot Is Rich and Not Me. Amazing book. That book helped me to kind of read and kind of start something on my own, kind of change the perspective that I had. Other than that, Rich Dad Poor Dad is something that everyone shall read. So there's a long list in my life, huge impact from the books, long list, but those are the few. And Simon Sinek, any of his books, including 5YO, Why, start with why. So those are the few that comes to my mind.
Okay, now going a little bit further on what we have been discussing. Taking this period starting from the March 2020 and up to now it's 2022, we have been living with this new norm now. Just wanted to check with the COVID-19 pandemic, starting with that, if there is any change that you have adopted with your leadership style, specific to this, adapting into this situation?
No, for me, obviously there is a major confusion between what is the leadership styles and what is management. So the question is also needs to be answered in that sense to say the leadership styles need not be changed just because of COVID. But because that question comes because we have all of us have a slight confusion of what is leadership and what is management. Just to start with that. Now, if you run a project very successfully, and there are 100 people who are doing things on your behalf with the project, and you monitor each one of them, you check whether everyone has done the job, all 100 of them, you check it every day. Project is for 3 months, after 3 months everything is on schedule, project is successful. It doesn't mean good leadership, it means good management. It means you have been controlling things, you have been checking things, you have been following things, that's management. So management has to change a lot with the COVID, that I agree, but in the leadership is more of how do you inspire people to be their best, or how do you inspire people to kind of achieve the things that they themselves thought is impossible. So I think what will, by the way, when I say management is different, leadership is different, I clearly understand any organization with too much of leadership without management also will die. Vice versa as well, any organization with too much of management without leadership will die. But vice versa, both sides will both sides will work. But what I'm trying to say is, with the COVID, maybe your leadership approaches will slightly change or becomes more critical, more important, because everyone is demotivated. How you can go and tell them, look here, tomorrow will be better. So leadership styles becomes more critical rather than a change in the leadership style. It becomes more critical when everyone is down, when everyone is thinking negative things, when everyone is thinking, look here, we are going to lose the jobs, the company will not have profits. Leadership becomes critical for you to go and tell them, look here, we'll face it together. So rather than a change in the leadership styles, it becomes more critical with the COVID. But your combination of management and leadership might change a little bit more with the COVID, because certain management policies, procedures, controls would have become more critical with the situation, because you need to save cash and on the control side of it. So therefore, in short, it is not a change in the approach due to COVID. It is leadership becoming more critical, and the need for management in very specific areas to protect the cash and the employees and all that is also becoming. So it's a change in the ratio between leadership and management rather than a change in the leadership approach per se.
Next question is going to be interesting. Channa, everyone knows that time is the most scarce resource out of it. How do you really manage your time?
No, generally I know there are a lot of books written on time management, a lot of seminars on time management. I don't think none of them work. It is, if you are doing, let's say, 3 different things, which in my life, other than being the CEO, I try to teach a little bit, that's my passion. I kind of spend little time with the family, I kind of try to allocate little time on my other studies. So it is, rather than managing the time, it's your interest. I mean, if you love what you do, you will find time. If you kind of, whatever the few things that you do, if you are inspired by the things that you get involved, time becomes manageable. So it's more than managing time, it's doing what you like. And if you try to do something that you don't like, you will obviously realize time is a critical factor. And if there are 3 things that you love to do, I'm sure time will allow you to do all 3 of them. But other than that, usual time management tactics will be helpful for you finding the right time, finding kind of organizing the time and all that. But mostly I think doing what you like and doing what you enjoy will resolve the time management problem mostly.
Now, next thing is when for a leader, his team is something that critical. I mean, when you are moving forward, it's not that a single person journey, it's a team journey. When you are recruiting members for your team, what are the areas that you are specifically considered? We'd love to know that.
Okay, so when you're tough one. I mean, tough to look at the recruitment these days, because generally what I see many people with few different MBAs and few different PhDs, but without enough common sense, which is a big problem. So recruitment is an issue whether you like it or not. So as I generally say, common sense is not very common in this part of the world. But if you ask me what do I look at the time of recruitment, this is again coming from my high harmony life. Many things that I do and I practice comes from the high harmony life, because I've been with them for 12 years, huge impact for me. But I mean, in the recruitment, some of the things that we kind of knew or agreed was, if you try to put it properly, why don't you hire for the attitude and train for the skills later? It means you hire the right person with the right attitude, or you hire the person with the right attitude. The skills you can train them later. So this is something that we are believing in Hydra Harmony. We try to recruit someone who will match to our team, who will have the same culture, who will work with us, who will believe in what we believe in, rather than the real skills, because those skills can be trained. But it doesn't mean that you will recruit someone for finance department who has not done chartered accountancy or SEMA. It doesn't mean that you will recruit someone for sales without having the basic qualification. But always at an interview, what matters is which one to give the priority. So priority, what I do, what we do at Dankotuwa and everywhere else that we have been is, Why don't you hire for attitude and train for the skills? Now, coming back on the second part of training for the skills, sometimes might be a challenging thing, but then I mean, nothing is rocket science. I mean, you can certainly teach. So we say that at Dankotuwa as well. Only thing that is rocket science is rocket science. We are just making plates so anyone can learn it. So we go mostly with the attitude. Whether it's a person that who will enjoy working with us, we enjoy working with them. At an interview, I'll try to see whether when we push him hard, how he will react rather than his qualifications. When we at the interview, when he says something wrong, when we catch it, and when we push him hard on that, will he say sorry, or rather than will he try to protect himself? So those are the skills that are being tested mostly, rather than the skills. Having said that, I will get involved the interviews at a certain level. So maybe when you try to do the interviews at few levels down, the skills might matter more. But to answer your question specifically, it's more towards attitude and kind of skills can be trained is the view.
Like he said that if you have the interest, even rocket science also not a rocket science these days. I think with the internet and everything is all there. So it's the right attitude that matters.
This question links up the previous one as well. Leadership is an important element of success. Leadership success helps for the organization success as well. For next question, I would like to ask, how do you really develop the leadership skills of your next layer?
Developing leadership within your next layer, whether you like it or not, as a CEO, that's your only job, right? I mean, monitoring KPIs for the performance and all that are very, very primary responsibilities anyone can do. But as a CEO, your main job is that, nothing else that. And if you do that right, rest will look after by itself. So developing leadership of the team, a few things. I mean, if I try to share something specifically that what we have done during the last 1 year, that's one of the success factors for Dankotuwa, in my view at least, is we try to appoint small teams who took the leadership for a specific period of time that was given to them, right? So there were 5 people that were appointed for the team, cross-functional teams representing different functions, different levels of the organization. And that team of 5 people were given 2 months for them to run the show. In the sense, they were given more responsibilities during those 2 months for the decision making. That worked very well. So they kind of got involved with the overall decision making, planning for the 2 months, deciding what products to manufacture, deciding what kind of activities that we are going to do with the employees, what changes we need for the organization and all that. So I think that worked fairly well at least with us. I'm sure it will work elsewhere as well. At Dankotuwa, kind of to develop the leadership. But that is one specific program. But generally, how do you develop leadership is like, I mean, if you think you are a good leader, then be with them. I mean, so they will work with you, and they'll be different. I mean, they'll not be like you. You can't mold them to be like you. They'll be leaders in their own passion, in their own way. They'll be leaders that are different to you, hopefully better than you. So it's just be with them and allow them to realize, allow them to do what they feel is right. Allow them to kind of realize their own dreams. I think that's the way forward.
Thank you. I mean, if you are a leader, I mean, people are different. I think that's
summary. And rather than you are cloning yourself in them, let them help them to realize their potentials and become leaders. Coming back into that, relevant to that, now when you are developing your team for the next level, motivation in your team is actually a very critical factor, I believe, and most of us can agree there. But, I mean, we would like to know, how do you motivate your team?
Okay, motivation. So now, I think there are 2 things in life. One is motivation, other one is discipline, right? Certain things you are really motivated to do, certain things you'll have to do whether you are motivated or not. So therefore both are critical. I think we are giving too much of priority for motivation. I think that's how the management books are written. Many books are written on motivation, not on discipline. So we generally give more priority for the motivation. Almost we believe that you got to be motivated to do anything. Not really. There will be 1,000 different things that you will have to do, whether you like it or not, whether you are motivated or not. They will have to be done because they are the right thing to be get done for the organization. So therefore both are critical, motivation and discipline. Now coming back to, even though your question is on the motivation, so coming back to the question on the motivation, how do you motivate your team? I mean, telling the truth, hopefully. I mean, you just go and tell them how great it is as at now, or how bad it is as at now. And then you just tell them very openly what you think about the situation, rather than going and telling them, look here, don't worry, everything is great. Go and tell them, look here, not a great situation to be in. This month might not be a great news. So telling the truth, I think it's good enough. If you can go and tell them, look here, this is the real situation, but of course you got to have being any leader, you got to have the ability of storytelling. You got to be able to go and tell a story. You got to be able to go and sell a story within the framework of telling the truth. So you can't go and tell your team, look here, everything is bad, I don't know what I'm going to do. You can't say that. But you have to go and tell the truth. Well, things are bad, but this is what I think it's going to be. This is what I'm going to do, and what do you think? What you are going to do? So I think without doing any magic of theoretical motivation in the books, or without doing what people generally think as motivators, if you tell the truth and if you share your genuine view of what the hell is happening around, team will be motivated. I mean, they will know that they will know the real situation. Everyone comes to office not to destroy it. Everyone comes to office to do good for the organization and to benefit out of it, and to develop themselves. So as long as they have that opportunity, as long as they know that things are great and we can go to one step further by working together, or as long as they know things are not great, but then we can make a difference if you work together, I think teams will be motivated. So it's that simple if you really look at it as it, but that simple things will get really complicated because of so-called management teaching. But if you forget about management teaching and go back to what you are as a human being, a lot of things will get resolved. I mean, if you don't follow management or leadership, if you forget about both, and if you become a good human being, things will get resolved. I mean, then there is nothing called motivation. You go and tell the truth and people will be motivated. But then now there's something called motivation. We try to think how to motivate is actually not required. That's coming from the management. But if you try to be a good human being, where you go and say, look here, this is what the situation is, and this is what I'm going to do, this is what I want from you guys, and if everything goes well, you will benefit, I'll benefit, company will benefit. Rest of the management becomes irrelevant then. So that's, I think, is the way to motivate.
Channa, I really want you to assume. I want you to assume, based on your wife's thinking, what do you think that the leadership quality that she admires most of you?
No, you are right. We'll have to ask her. Number two, I would not know, but then something that is, we try to help, how can I say, I don't know, it's fair to say we try to help people as much as possible. I don't know whether it's a little bit of overstatement, but at least in terms of, if you find someone that needs help, especially in terms of jobs, especially in terms of kind of other help in their corporate life, I try to help as much as possible. So I think that is something that she likes. So I don't think it's a leadership style, but I think that's a feature that we like. And again, that's coming into me because there were times in my life where I was kind of one of the organizations I decided to leave without having another option, and when you try to do that, you get stuck. So there was a time where I was kind of I work as a CEO and then resign from that company from being a CEO suddenly. Right decision or wrong decision is a different argument. By looking at today, it seems to be the right decision, but then it was quite arguable then. But when I had that situation, there are a lot of people who kind of call me on daily basis. So one of the, even though it's not directly related to the point, one of such was Ranil Pathiran, who was my boss then. He used to call me every 2-3 days and say, how is it going now? Did you apply there? Did you apply here? It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. So I think I had that impact as well. But anyway, even without that, in terms of jobs, you try to help a lot of people. I think that's, everyone deserves a better chance. So that's the quality I think my wife liked most, subject to confirmation or correction.
It's actually been a very interesting discussion, Chamikara. I mean, but now we have actually been discussing this, and we didn't know that the time is also passing. Every good thing has to be an end. That's true. But now, Channa, for the final question. Well, now this discussion is being watched by so many future CEOs and leaders. What is the last word that you can give for them as a guidance or advice or anything you like to do some comment?
Okay, so when you say that there are many future CEOs who are looking at the program, what I wanted to kind of start with is that question kind of implies that you wanted to be a CEO and you kind of everyone should try to be a CEO. I think all of us try to be happy. Whether not to be a CEO, whether you can be happy by being a CEO, that's fine, but I'm sure there are 1,000 other ways for you to have a happy life without being a CEO. But then coming back to the question of the advice or the comments for anyone who would like to be a CEO, one of the most critical things that we got to highlight or know is there's a huge difference between leadership and management, and for you to be able to identify what really leadership is, we are struggling as a country to distinguish leadership from the management. As an example, if you look at someone who is handling a project and he handles perfect, there are 100 people who are working for him, he controls what's happening on every day, there's a plan for every day, there's a plan for everyone. Let's say it's a 2 months project is successful on the dot, within the cost. It doesn't mean it's great leadership, it means great management. Leadership is different. Leadership is how you get your team to do their best, how you inspire teams to do what they thought is impossible. Leadership is something else. So I think that's a key message for everyone who wants to be a CEO, who wants to be a happy life. You got to realize that you got to be a leader. You should try to be a leader. There are enough who are confused with those. There are enough people who call themselves whatever the name, director, CEO, manager, whatever it is, and they control things, they monitor things. So they are great managers. They are not leaders. Nothing wrong with great managers, but then you got to know it's not leadership. That's the starting point, I think. Starting point is to realize leadership is something different. Then you will start practicing that. I mean, someone comes to you and talk to you. When that person goes back, he thinks how great you are, then you are a great manager. When someone comes and talks to you for 10 minutes and he goes back and he thinks how great he himself is, then you are a great leader. So that difference has to be made. It's not about yourself, it's about kind of inspiring everyone else to do their best. So that's the first point in my mind. That's the first thing one should do. Second thing one shall do, if possible, is to realize that we should try to be great human beings, and that will resolve all the problems that we have in either in leadership or management. So then we'll have to have a process of unlearning all the management that we have learned and try to be a good human being. You don't need to have a theory to respect your team. If you are a good human being, you will respect your team. You don't need to motivate, you don't need to do anything else to motivate the team. If you go and tell the truth, they'll be motivated. If you go and tell what you are doing and what's going to happen, they'll be motivated. So I think all of us, all the to answering your question, all the people who want to be a CEO should realize that you should try to be a great human being, and rest of the problems will resolve by itself. Having said that, there are enough organizations, and we try to make the same at Dankotuwa as much as possible. I work for Hydra Harmony for 12 years, which has huge impact in me in whatever I do. I mean, 12 years is too long for you to kind of not have any impact. So we have seen organizations like that, and I have personally a huge impact from some of the gentlemen who were within the Hydra Harmony life, like people like Janak Hydra Harmony, Tonna Raja, Ranil Padrana. Whether they were great leaders or great managers is irrelevant. They were great human beings. That resolved the problem of management and leadership both. So therefore my second point is you should try to be a great human being. That will resolve a lot of issues. But it's difficult to be a great human being these days because we have put a lot of management on top of the human being, so you can't take that human qualities easily up because a lot of management is pushing hard. But if you really want to go by the management, go ahead with that, given the broader scope of being a good human being. So I think that's the message. That's the message. And you should not try to be like someone else. You should try to be yourself. My team will never be a CEO like me. They'll be the CEOs that they can best be. Hopefully, they will be better than me in the work that they are going to do in the future. So everyone is different. So you can't put everyone into one framework and try to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you do that in that order, things will streamline. It is just to see the differences in the people and help them to do better. That's the secret. That's the secret, and that's the only way to go forward. Rest is kind of clerical work. Given the technological changes that are happening, a lot of the rest of the things will be looked after by the technology itself. Why you need human beings is to make that difference. So that's the difference that you can make. And I wish everyone to make that difference in their life, for themselves, for the team, for the organization, and for the country. That's all.
That's it. Be a great human being, and that's a wonderful last message. And thank you very much, Channa.
My pleasure.
That was indeed an insightful and inspiring discussion. Thank you very much.
Hope this will be helpful for many to become groom as leaders. Thank you very much. And would like to say now, these days we can't shake hands on these things, so I won.
Thank you.
Thank you.